rest of the story.
I know you guys can't see the drill, and I'd say we're doing the valley a little bit different this year, largely because normally at this level of growth for the grass, I would have had fertilizer on it by now. And this year I think I'm going to roll the dice, and I really would like to see how it will work putting my dry down after first crop, because typically after you take that first cutting off, the ground is actually firmed up where you're not worried about getting stuck. And I've been building the soil up for the last 2 years down here, and I'd like to believe that skipping the fertilizer for the first cutting, but then hitting it with the dry fertilizer after first cut, it may make the second, potentially third cut a little bit more valuable, or give it a little bit more quantity is what I want to say there. And if it doesn't work out this year, then I guess we go back to what we know works, which is spreading it before now. I gotta be honest with you, I'm not impressed with that ripper, that single shank ripper. I think that was a waste of time, energy. I should have focused more on trenching, to be honest. But even the low-lying wet areas that were down here not that long ago have actually dried up, firmed up. And going through, Ryan harrowed it, but the harrow does more digging than it does actually smoothing on those areas where I ripped it. So just dragging the drill over it right down the center, and what those center blades do, where you got it's offset, half the blades are throwing this way and half are throwing that way. And then what it does is it hits that mound where the ripper ran, and it smooths it out, which is what I really need to see. I don't really like seeing how aggressive that harrow is on some of this grass down here, because the valley is really greened up since I was down here last Sunday. And the problem with getting super excited for spring is that next week looks like it's going to make up for some of that nice, warm, hot, dry, awesome weather. What I mean by that is they're calling for snow on Monday. To be honest, I think the last couple of years of trying to improve this place and utilize as close to 100% of it as possible is gradually starting to go in my favor. Okay, these are hopefully the last fittings I need to finish this planter up. We went through, we had to silicone up the vacuum where Dad is currently tightening up. We had to silicone either sides of the mount. What we ended up doing, we were having issues with clearance because the exhaust for the vacuum was actually angled to blow straight down. The problem is this cast outlet was actually hitting the box that was here, and never seen them. Our agronomist, our tech guy, has also never seen them where they've been offset by one set of bolt holes. And the only issue we can find with it is just it's going to be exhausting more across the planter, but clearance, so it's not destroying itself, is very huge. And we got to go through, we'll rehook all the fittings here. We're actually going to back this up because we put it ahead to get our height clearance, but I'm actually going to pull it back now to get it away from the marker arms on the front side, because these tubes, the vacuum tubes, hoses, where it currently sits right now, the marker arms, when it's folded up, would be resting right against it. So we move it back another set of bolt holes. That'll give us our clearance there, so we won't have any wear issues on that. This right here, you know, trying to find all the hose fittings I need to make this thing work. I found a business down south of here that they have everything we need, but this guy will allow me to do that, then hook that up to there, and then that to there, and that is our low pressure return off of the fan. And batteries, I don't think anybody charged the other battery yet, so we got to put 2 batteries in here. My nephew's learned how to drive tractor, and at least the vacuum power takeoff pump for the vacuum system is pretty well on the downhill side of being ready to go. What we need to do yet is hook up the power beyond, which runs the generator, and also the it's not sure speed, what's sure, is it sure force? What's the name of the hydraulic downforce system? Sure force. Talked to agronomist last night. Andrew says do not hook that up without him here, because there is a set of steps that you have to do for the regulator.
The airs and there's still air in the lines, isn't there? We haven't actuated them.
No, we haven't primed them at all, so that's going to be a little bit of a process. But overall, the planner is coming together. A little bit of a sigh of relief, to be honest, just seeing it getting done. We're gonna find a place to hook this up out the back. We gotta weld up that bracket to support this, put the soybean seed discs in, all of the meters. Soybeans are what we're gonna be planting first. We had the last week here was beautiful 70s, 80-degree weather. We're able to get a lot of stuff done on the farm just in regards to the checking fences and getting all of our oats in. I got no footage of that, hardly any if I do. But this upcoming week they are calling for 30s and 40s again, so definitely not feeling too terrible about not getting anything planted. I know there's people that are putting crops in. A lot of those people that are planting that I've heard have paid for the early plant. We did not, which I'm fine with, because my logic is I'd rather let the ground warm up, and then I'd rather plant into warm soil. We planted, what, May 10th last year in 90-degree weather, and basically everything was, once it was in the ground, it was off to the races. So you really don't want to, you know, ruin our whole growing season just because we got excited and wanted to get the crops in as soon as it was warm. And here I thought I forgot my camera. Well, working on the planter, and gotta shut this guy off. I'm gonna drop the oil out of my four-wheeler. Got 577 miles last year. Only 3,800 miles on it overall. I reset the trip every time I change the oil, which I do every spring of every year. Just do it once. More or less, the way this four-wheeler is going, it's going to be around for quite a while yet, is my intentions. Progress is being made. The power takeoff pump has been probably one of the biggest things that I've been worried about, just getting the hoses and everything wired up right. I know this might be a little tricky explaining with the planter folded up, but with all the snow that we ended up getting, it's pretty well melted off. I mean, we're back up in the 50s, but yeah, we really did. We got a few inches of snow. It was completely white outside yesterday. And what I'm looking to do is, well, right now I'm just making sure that the hoses and everything are good as it's folded up, because the oil cooler is all the way out in the wing. We did that because it's the only place in the planter that's actually open enough that we can actually, the mounting bracket that's meant for the oil cooler, it's the only place we had we could actually put it. On Saturday, I don't think, well, today's Tuesday, so yeah, it was Saturday we did this. I don't think I showed you guys this part of it, but we went and remounted the fertilizer fill pump, or fill line. Wasn't really sure how we were going to do this. Was thinking just quick fix, just cutting it and then running it straight down and then just filling it right by the fertilizer tank. It is a lot more convenient having it straight out the back like this, because when you drop it down back up to the fertilizer tank to fill, I can go through, grab seed out of the truck, put the seed in the planter, and then without having to move the planter or anything, I can hook up the fertilizer, fill it, and then I can take off. So that's a big thing. Well, it's a big convenience. The vacuum, I'm not sure, I can't remember everything I said in the last video, but by notching it out one way, because this vent was pointing straight down, it was hitting this. This was actually our first injury in regards to all the stuff we did to the planter. It actually kind of messed up the top of this box. No big deal though. I got to go through and put the seed discs in, the double eliminators in, I believe, and then it's primarily back to the tractor. We got to do all the cab stuff yet. We have to put the auto steer stuff in and pretty much just run the last of the wires. We just went and got the upholstery for that whole side panel. Thank you to who mentioned that, going to what is it, the upholstery site. For buying that upholstery, we looked online. We could buy it for the same price. No, it was a little bit more than what we had it reupholstered, and they did a really good job on it. So I mean, we're gonna use the old one by all means. It just makes sense to. But on the 7600 actually has the front two panels posts that are getting bad. Well, I can get both of those posts for $100 for both of them, and it was a couple $100 just to get one a while back. But I gotta go through, I gotta fill this up with oil. I just brought that up here, and what I'm probably looking at doing, see, I don't really like how this can move that much, so I'm actually going to loosen up this drawbar, the clamp on this drawbar, because that's what it's all mounted to. And I'm actually going to take up some of that slack and pull it ahead, because I don't really like that at all. I'd rather all the way on, like it does say in the manual, and go that route. But I got to put oil in it, run it. I already closed the relief valve down. You're supposed to fill it, run it for 2 minutes, and then fill it again until the oil is at the top of the sight glass here. So literally the instructions just say put oil into it until it's essentially coming out the fill hole, and you're good. At least that's what it seems like. I won't go quite that extreme. But then we also have the fertilizer set up. Andrew said that has already come in too. So instead of using just the standard pump setup where it runs set on whatever setting I have it set on, with this controller sitting on the bench here, we're going through with a different setup that has a flow meter on it, I believe. So we're eliminating this guy, which, you know, I'd have to manually turn it on and off. And we're going to a system where it'll actually control, well, essentially like a sprayer. It's going to control how much of the fertilizer it's putting out depending on how fast I'm driving, which is going to be pretty important, because it sounds like I'll be driving faster planting with this setup than I was with the old setup. I mean, with fingers and chains and bearings. The other setup, it did what it did. We got some pretty wicked yields from it, but I'm always looking for consistency. Not even like we're gonna see record yields like we've seen. It's being able to replicate these yields that we're getting year in and year out versus last year. Our singulation wasn't perfect, and I'm striving for perfection. I want that picket fence stand. This planting setup, by getting the seed in at the right depth and the right conditions and the right spacing, consistently year in and year out, you're gonna get a more consistent yield going forward here. Weather still plays part of it, absolutely, but if we would have had rougher weather conditions or tougher weather conditions last year, with the stand that we had, which wasn't bad, I'm just really hard on myself, I don't believe we would have seen the yields that we saw. See, the problem is when the weather plays out, having the planter set up the way that we had it, it really doesn't reflect any much of a yield loss. It will some, but what this setup will do is on a rougher year, a tougher year, when conditions aren't maybe ideal, or especially if your window is that much narrower, especially when it looks like we should have been planting a week ago. Now they're calling for cold and rain all the way up till May now. Our planting window might not be as wide as we would have preferred, and being able to plant at a higher rate, faster pace, is also where this really comes into play. Because with the other planter, I was limited at 4.8 miles an hour. If I went any faster than that, the job it was doing, singulating and getting seeds in the ground where they need to be, really just it plummeted. It wasn't a gradual drop off, it plummeted. So that's hopefully, you know, not trying to get myself to overthink it too much as far as what this setup was going to do, but it's just going to be a big sigh of relief, having it all ready to go to the point where if and when we are ready to plant, we can jump in it and go. See, as far as the cab goes, I don't have much to really wire in. I mean, you guys have pretty well seen all this, but there's 2 more wires or lines, I'm not sure what they are, that need to come up out of the floor into the cab, and then I can seal this up. I can get that upholstery back on, and we'll be ready to go. I'm going to clean the cab out, armor all it, make it all nice and comfortable in here, and we'll be ready to go. Dad saw the wiring job that we did. He didn't mind that. He didn't say anything about that at all. The first thing he said was he thought I drilled the holes into the cab for my music or for my cell phone. Here's a little trick. Never even really occurred to me. I'm going to do it in the 76, actually, in the combine. But that way these wires aren't hanging down in your face. So as simple as that is, it works, and I love it. So I'm gonna get dropping the oil out of my four-wheeler before it gets too cold off. 70 or 50 degrees out isn't so bad, but I'm hoping we can actually start a nice warming trend and keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy. Oh boy. Look.